Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday live stream for now week 18 of the 2024 fantasy football season. But hey, first and foremost, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. Yes, we're still talking about fantasy football in regards to week 18 matchups because many of us who are in unfortunate situations perhaps have a commissioner who has put us in a situation in which we have to play in week 18. If you're one of the few that are in that situation, of course, I am here in order to help you guys with wide receiver rankings today. Of course, yesterday we talked about a top 36 running back rankings. On Monday, we talked about waiver wire pickups. As the week progresses, tomorrow we'll talk about quarterbacks. Friday, we'll talk about the tight end position. And of course, Saturday and Sunday, like we do every single weekend, we'll be live streaming here on the channel with up-to-date rankings on screen as they filter through. But as the week progresses and we get more and more information privy to us by these organizations kind of committing to players playing and not playing. For example, earlier today, we got 100% confirmation from the mouth of Saquon Barkley that he will not be playing against the New York Giants this upcoming weekend like we anticipated. Again, there's a lot of players that potentially may not play or maybe be in a situation in which they'll play the first quarter and then after that they'll be pulled for the second, and potentially even third string members of their offense. Either way, over the course of the next however many minutes you guys ask questions for, I'll be answering said questions regarding week 18 fantasy football. So let's begin, shall we? Again, I do have a strength of schedule also as a graphic. We can filter through that if anybody wants to check that out. But for right now, I'll just leave these on screen and we can go ahead and talk about them. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin. Onage says, Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Onage. You've been here. You've been the first message of like almost 90% of the live streams, which is crazy. Dylan says, I'm taking BTJ at the first pick, no matter what next year. BTJ first pick with a healthy Trevor Lawrence. Again, I mean, it depends what the coaching staff is going to look like. I think there's a very high likelihood that they'll relieve Doug Peterson of his duties after this season, depending on who comes in as the offensive coordinator, head coach. Maybe just hear me out. What if there's a possibility that Ben Johnson goes to Jacksonville? I mean, just imagine the potential that BTJ would have within a Ben Johnson offense. It'd be pretty nice. Jordan Lindbergh, before we started the stream, you sent in that very, very nice message. Congratulations on the victory. I'm glad to hear it, and congratulations. That's fantastic. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you. Jimmy sends in a question, says Falcons or Commanders defense? I'd rather play the Commanders defense this week. Against the Dallas Cowboys, again, just like they presented last week, the Commanders defense as a whole this season hasn't been great. They probably won't be able to stop the run, but I mean, ultimately, I'd rather play them against an offense that doesn't have CeeDee Lamb rather than a Falcons team that, again, is trying their best in order to make the playoffs this upcoming week. So taking on, they're going to be trying their best, but of course, they're taking on the Panthers, who have already designated earlier this week from their head coach that all their starters will be going. And, the Panthers have been a pretty good offense over the course of the last month of the season, last 5 weeks. Bryce Young has been playing at an all-time high in his career. So as of right now, the Commanders defense would be the preferred. What's up, Scott? How you doing? 26 bands up says, do you think Sutton and Jefferson will play? Absolutely. Both of them have to play. Just hear me out, okay? So as it currently stands, there are some teams that are still in playoff contention that are trying to make either the number 1 seed in the case of the Vikings. If the Vikings beat the Detroit Lions and a couple other things take place, they would be the number 1 seed going into the NFC, into the NFL playoffs. So if they were to win, they would have a bye week. In the event in which they were to lose, they'd have to play in the first round of the NFL playoffs, most likely against either Tampa Bay or Atlanta, whoever wins that NFC South division. So in order for them to get a bye week, of course, Justin Jefferson is going to be at a full capacity. Every single Viking and Detroit Lion will be playing this upcoming weekend if they're capable of doing so and not dealing with an injury. As for Cortland Sutton, in a very similar situation, the Denver Broncos, regardless of the fact that Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce will likely be sitting this weekend against the Denver Broncos, we have to see the Denver Broncos win. Otherwise, they don't end up making the playoffs. So expect for a full workload of opportunity in the direction of Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, who are the primary starters for our teams in regards to that team going into this week. So yeah, absolutely both of them are going to play. Goat said, Andrew, I won 2 leagues because of you. Thank you. And RIP the gray shirt. I saw that gray shirt comment when the intro was rolling. I love it, man. That's hilarious. Yeah, the gray shirt is, it's sitting in a closet somewhere with the 8 of them. There's literally 8 next to each other. But yes, RIP the gray shirt. Congratulations, go on the championships. Gabriel says, whoever's still playing in week 18, you guys are suckers. I mean, listen, I honestly don't even think it's them that are suckers. It's more like the fantasy manager or like the league commissioner kind of unfortunately maybe didn't know, because a lot of the time if you play in a week 18, it's typically because you play on ESPN, and the ESPN default format is to play a 2-week championship into week 18, which again, I don't know why ESPN of all platforms still has that as the case, but as of right now, I wouldn't say that they're suckers. It's more like the commissioner needs to get their stuff together. But, what's up, Gabriel? How you doing? Jocelyn, what's up? AC says, just here to show some support. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Jocelyn says, hey, bro, Juwan has 293 receiving yards, close to 1,000, a college buddy with Dobbs. Yeah, I mean, again, he should get himself a pretty good workload. I don't even know whether or not Deebo Samuel is going to be active. We're going to have to keep an eye on that as we go into this upcoming week. In the event in which Deebo's inactive, I'll move up Juwan Jennings a significant margin. Again, you got to remember, this is just preliminary rankings for Wednesday. As we get closer, because it's only Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday practice reports will come out. There will be a lot of these players that may not even play going into this weekend based on either injuries and or the fact that they may not even be, they're not fighting for a playoff position. They might just call it quits at that point going into this week, depending on their situation. But yeah, Juwan Jennings certainly could be a significantly better play, but we'll have to wait and see. Certainly on the factor of whether or not Deebo goes. Pearsall obviously looked like he was trying to get himself into the starting role at a kind of premier rate considering his usage this most recent week. Kittle's obviously going to be the primary number one. We know how Josh Dobbs likes to utilize his tight ends. If you go back to last season, guys, whether Josh Dobbs was with the Arizona Cardinals or the Minnesota Vikings, either Hawkinson and or Trey McBride had themselves incredible performances with Josh Dobbs. So he definitely likes to use the tight end position. If Kittle's active, he'd probably be the number one still within the offense. All right, let's see here. Joseph says, T. Higgins or Josh Jacobs in the flex. I got Bucky and Gibbs as my RB1 and 2. And Amon-Ra and BTJ as my wide receiver 1 and 2. I'm down 20 points. It depends on format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'm willing to go with T. Higgins there. If we're talking about a half PPR, I'm also still willing to roll with T. Higgins, assuming he's fully healthy. I know he's currently dealing with a little bit of a knee and ankle situation, so he's going to be limited over the course of practice prior to this upcoming Saturday's game against Pittsburgh. But if I was in your position, I'd be really comfortable firing up T. Higgins in a half or full PPR, mainly because this is the way that I see it. I think Josh Jacobs could very easily score himself 20 fantasy points, but he could also put up 12 to 15 and then disappear in the second half because they're up 20 points against the Chicago Bears because Chicago unfortunately cannot score as an offense. If that was to take place, it wouldn't surprise me if they sat Josh Jacobs in the second half, similar in which they took on the New Orleans Saints a couple weeks ago, in which he disappeared. So that's the primary concern. So I lean towards T. Higgins in that scenario. James says, only if week 15 was these many watchers, I'll get questions answered. Yeah, listen, that's just, that's the situation. As of right now, there aren't too many people playing in week 18, but I do appreciate for those of you who have swung on by. I'm here to help you guys to the best of my ability. If you aren't even playing this week and you're just here just for the vibes, I appreciate that. Thank you. Caden says, Commanders, Texans, or Seahawks defense. As of right now, considering Jimmy Garoppolo will most likely be starting for the Rams, the Texans will be taking on a kind of mix between Rudolph and Levis. We could go either of those way. The only thing that kind of leans me away from the Texans defense, even though I do think that it should be an advantageous matchup against the Tennessee Titans offense, is that the head coach of the Texans has specifically said, we're going to play the starters, but we'll see how much they play. We'll see how the game goes. I think they're only going to keep their primary guys out there for probably the first half of the game, maybe even the first quarter, which kind of opens up the potential of the Titans kind of roaring back in that second half, which scares me. So if I was to probably play one of these defenses, I would lean in the direction of the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks defense against a Jimmy Garoppolo, Tutu Atwell, Blake Corum offense would probably fare relatively well, considering, the Rams can't score with Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Kupp out there with Kyron Williams. They can't even score more than 2 touchdowns within a given week in the last month of the season. So, outside of that Bills game, outside of that, they've been pretty rough as an offense. So I would assume that with the backups out there, it may be even more difficult for them to find the end zone and therefore give them a little bit more value to that Seahawks defense this weekend. Let's see here. Playing week 18, that's right. That's why I'm here. Installed says Marvin Mims. Yeah, he could be a solid option here. The thing about Marvin Mims is, again, the 2 touchdowns he scored, the one of them obviously was a 70-yard bomb down the field by Bo Nix. And again, if he's going to be given those opportunities 70 yards down the field, which again, they want to continue to look in his direction. Last time out against the Cleveland Browns, also had a big bomb down the field and made a relevant option within the game. But ultimately, it's purely just a matter of, is he going to be given those opportunities? Because in the weeks in which he doesn't score these touchdowns, as of late, hasn't been as solidified of a fantasy option. Can he be in the top 45 conversation? Absolutely. I have him ranked already in that mix. Just looking at his most recent performances, 26, 8, 4, 18, 5, right? So therein lies the risk. you're either going to get like a huge performance or you're going to get a downside performance. Now, again, taking on a Kansas City team that may be missing like Trent McDuffie, one of their primary cornerbacks this weekend, because again, they're trying to rest the majority of their guys. There could be an opportunity for Marvin Mims to get that extra boost of potential. But again, there's always the risk implied within the overall conversation. All right, let's hear. Failures, no option says, is Chase Brown going to play? So earlier this week, we got a little bit more of a, I guess, exciting news regarding his potential injury. It is an ankle injury rather than a knee injury, which is obviously a boost. But in regards to whether or not he plays, I would still say pick up Khalil Herbert. If you are a Chase Brown manager going into this weekend, and in the event of Saturday in which he does not play, Khalil Herbert should be a solid option, considering again how much utilization the running backs of this offense get. Outside of Khalil Herbert, there wouldn't be anybody else contributing, so he'd play 100% of the snaps out of this backfield and be the early goal line and third down back, which gets himself all that receiving utilization that is typically available. So, and even in the absence of him last week, Khalil Herbert played relatively well in that overtime period. But anyway, so pick him up. In the case of this upcoming Saturday that he's not available, then we can pivot. But otherwise, I do anticipate, based on the information that we got earlier this week, that he should be available. All right, let's see here. Charlene, what's up, man? How's it going? It says, go Texas Longhorns. Yeah, that interception at the end of the game was interesting. Again, the Arizona State offense, very run heavy. Again, I don't watch college football very much because I'm purely just focused on the NFL, and I don't really have time to watch any other football. But yeah, that was the first time for me watching both those teams play this year, so it was very interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Javar says, Aaron Jones, Achane, or Ray Davis at a full PPR flex. If I was going to play one of them, I'd play Aaron Jones over the rest, assuming he's healthy, of course. Again, he did sustain a quad contusion earlier in the game against the in which the Minnesota Vikings played in Week 17. So if, in fact, that injury is going to hold him out, of course, you can pivot to playing Achane there. But assuming that Aaron Jones is fired up and is starting this week, he would be the preferred. iShine101 says, I lost one of my 4 leagues. I had the most points in one of them, didn't win. So I'm getting back moolah for that. Yeah, I mean, at least you'll be able to get that back. But hey, listen, you won one of your leagues. Congratulations, we'll take that. Hopefully we can go ahead and capture some more next season. Travis Stokes sends it a question, says Pittman, Gainwell, or Corum in a full PPR. Start 2. If I'm starting 2 of these options, I'd probably go with Pittman and Gainwell. Those are the 2 that I would prefer to play as for this week. Charlene says scary game for Texas. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Papa says Miami or the Bucs defense. The Bucs take on the New Orleans Saints. I'd probably go in that direction because last time out against the Miami Dolphins, Aaron Rodgers played a relatively solid game. And considering this could be Aaron Rodgers' final game of his career, I'd assume that he's going to go out on his shield and not pull himself out of the the game in the fourth quarter for Tyrod. So as of right now, I'd go with the Buccaneers defense for this weekend. Again, and they're also trying to play for that playoff positioning. And again, the Saints offense is a disaster. Flame838 sends it a question, says Happy New Year. Flame, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you as well. Says, how would you rank these quarterbacks? Murray, May, Wilson, Young. Okay, so as it currently stands, I'd probably go in the direction, assuming Murray will have Marvin Harrison alongside of Trey McBride this weekend. I'd probably go Murray 1, Wilson 2, Bryce Young 3, Drake May 4. So Murray, Wilson, Young, May, as it currently stands. Now, it could change by the time we get to tomorrow's rankings. Again, I'll be live streaming tomorrow afternoon /night at 6 p.m. PST once again. So we'll be doing this for the quarterback conversation tomorrow. But as of right now, Murray, Wilson, Young, May. Thank you. 26 Band says, will Jacobs play? If not, I have Corum and Gainwell. Jacobs is going to play. Again, like I reiterated yesterday, guys, the Washington Commanders currently have the higher seeding in comparison to the Green Bay Packers. If in fact the Washington Commanders lose to the Cowboys this week, somehow, some way, and the Green Bay Packers were to win, they would jump the Commanders within the seeding, and they'd play against the Rams, which, of course, that is what they're playing for. So, yes, Jacobs is going to play this weekend. Anadi says, I won 3 of my 4 leagues, 2 of which are money leagues. Thanks for being a man. Thanks for being the man, Andrew. I'll see you late next season. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll see you next offseason, August next year, or this year, technically. Jesus says, ain't fantasy football's over now? I just won both my leagues. Yeah, there's a couple leagues that play in week 18, unfortunately. But hey, we're here to help. Smooth Criminal says, Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Any pick'ems? As of right now, I was looking at a couple of them. I'll go ahead and share it in a moment. Just want to catch up on some of these questions. Caden says, Bryce Young or Joe Flacco in a 6-point per passing touchdown format. As of right now, I'd probably lean in the direction of going Bryce Young there. Yeah, because Bryce, In comparison to Joe Flacco, Bryce Young has the rushing upside and additionally has the less of a turnover situation, which is going to exist, unfortunately. And Miles Sanders should be active, so it should kind of bring that offense a little bit together. Scott says, in one of my high dollar leagues, we go 18 weeks to make the playoffs. When you advance, you repeat the team every week for the championship. Interesting. I've never heard of that format, but hey, we'll see. James Hurst says, Andrew, if Nico doesn't miss those 5 games, do you think he would have finished as wide receiver 1 overall? There's a very good chance. But then again, the play of CJ Stroud went down the drain relatively quickly. So I don't know if it was a matter of all the receivers getting injured one at a time, but ultimately it just felt like CJ Stroud wasn't the CJ Stroud of old. Now, if I was to blame something, it's not him, it's the offensive line, and that needs to be addressed this offseason. Without time, the guy cannot survive in the pocket. He truly can't do it. But yeah, assuming Nico Collins never had that injury, there's a very good chance that he would have finished as top 3 at least. FFL Spectrum says, why do you have JSN over Jordan Addison? I'm wondering because, so this is how it currently stands. Going into this upcoming weekend, Jackson Smith and Jigba with Geno Smith. Geno Smith needs, I think, about 186 total passing yards in order to cash in a $2 million incentive, taking on the Rams, who are probably going to be in a situation without an offense because, again, Stafford, Kyren, Puka, Kupp, all the starters are going to be sitting like they do in the preseason. You would anticipate that the Rams are not going to be able to score. So in the complete, opposite side of that overall conversation, when they're turning over the ball on a consistent rate or, punting it as they will, Geno Smith is just going to light it up just to get all the incentives he possibly can within this contract. Geno could theoretically get up to $5 million this weekend based on how well he plays. And last time out against the LA Rams, as we remember, JSN went for 38 fantasy points and dominated against that defense, and he could very easily do so once again this week, considering, again, they may be holding out some of their players because they don't want to start their main guys as they have a playoff, berth in week 19. But again, in comparison to someone like Jordan Addison, as you can see from the rankings on screen, they're relatively close. Again, they're both B-tier players. If you wanted to play Addison, you could absolutely do so, and you can find very similar success. I just think that the volume of opportunity that Jackson Smith will get as the primary number 1 of his offense within the upcoming matchup with the Rams pretty much sitting everyone, I think it does provide a little bit more upside for him in that circumstance. All right, so let's see here. Scrolling down, I don't want to miss anybody's questions. Nick says, Bucks or Ravens defense? I'd rather play the Ravens defense this weekend. Thank you. Let's see here. I have Chase Brown, Irving, Jamar Chase, Neighbors, Achane, Dobbins, Pickens, Downs, Myers, Debo, Nixon, Murray. Barkley is out. Who do I start? If I was going to start a group of these players, like Bucky Irving has to play with Chase Brown, assuming Chase Brown's healthy. Jamar Chase and Neighbors are your wide receiver 1 and 2. Dobbins is your flex. And that's the way that I'd go about it this weekend. If you had a second flex that you could pick up and play, I mean, that would be Pickens at that point. As for quarterback between Nix and Murray, I could go back and forth on the two. I think there could be a conversation for Nix there, considering how well he's played, and he will be taking on a Chiefs defense that may not have all their primary guys going. But as of right now, I'd probably still stick with Murray in that circumstance. Let's see here. Seeker says McMillan or Tyreek Hill in a full PPR. The issue with Tyreek Hill is, okay, so even though we did see a better product from Tyreek Hill in the absence of Tua Tagovailoa, and the expectation going into this week is that Tua is not going to play, as it currently stands, I mean, the touchdown streak that Jalen McMillan is on and the fact that they take on the New Orleans Saints makes me just lean in that direction. Like, even though we did see Tyler Huntley really function the offense at a high capacity, in comparison to earlier this year when Tyler Huntley was thrown into the fire, I did not know how to run this offense. It really did look like he knew how to run the RPO because he has sat back for the last 8 weeks and watched Tua perform at a high level. So I do think that Tyreek Hill has the potential, but ultimately, again, it's purely going to be a matter of can he score a touchdown. If he does so, then he'll be able to outscore someone like McMillan. Otherwise, in a full PPR, I could see it, but I could also see in the same conversation in which Tyreek Hill is ignored because they quite frankly don't need to utilize him very much in order to even beat the Jets. They could just find all that success in the direction of Waddle, in the direction of Jonnu, Achane, etc. from the running game. But an argument can be made for sure in a full PPR because, again, McMillan in comparison is probably going to get himself very similar to the way he has in the last 2 weeks, 6, 7, 8 targets at most. And with that, only getting 4, 5, 6 receptions. In a full PPR, again, if he doesn't score a touchdown, Tyreek probably outscores him. So if we're just playing off the basis of who's not scoring touchdowns, base floor of production, Tyreek in a full PPR would be the better play. All right, let's see here. That's not what I wanted to do. I accidentally closed my stream. That's a misclick. Okay, we're back. All right, let's see here. After that, Marco says, how do we feel about Baltimore's defense this week? They're going to be my number 1 defense on the week. For sure, without a doubt. Again, they're going to be my number 1 defense. Absolutely. All right, let's see here. We took care of that question. We took care of that one. 26 bands up says full PPR, Gesicki or Johnny Smith. I'm cool just sticking with Johnny Smith there for right now. J-Rad says Chargers or Falcons defense. I would prefer to play the Chargers defense this weekend. Gabriel says any underdog entries would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, we'll go over that in just a moment. Sharp, Gainwell, Quorum, or Ray Davis in a full PPR. Nick AM, I would go with Charbonnet there out of that group. Again, we talked about it yesterday. If you wanted to go ahead and like theoretically check out my running back rankings, it's live on the channel just so that you're aware as to how to get there. I can just go ahead and share it with you really quickly. So theoretically speaking, if you were to, let's go ahead and do this real quick. Let's go here real quickly. So theoretically, if you were to go to my channel and go to the live section, it's right here from yesterday. This is the running back rankings from yesterday. So if you wanted to check those out, the rankings are available here. The first 3-4 weeks. Yeah, there they are. Yeah. See them? Cool. All right. All right, let's go back here and then we'll go ahead and answer a couple more questions. Then we'll put together a couple. Oh, that's not the right screen. I almost did the same thing again that I did on Sunday morning. Classic. Okay, anyway, continuing on. All right, let's see here. Murray or Herbert? As of right now, I'd play Herbert between the two of them. Charlene says, I love fantasy football and college football. Yeah, I mean, listen, fantasy football is as good as it gets. You're preaching to the choir here. Trophy Steeler says, why is Pickens so low? Yeah, the primary reason why Pickens kind of scares me going into this weekend, I mean, again, scares me is because the issue is, ultimately, is he going to get enough of a target opportunity share in comparison to the rest of these options that are available out here? That's my only primary concern, because in the absence of a touchdown, we're cooked. And a lot of these other studs are getting not only more targets, but more looks down in the red zone. That is a primary concern that I have with Pickens. I mean, last time out against the Chiefs, not enough looks. Over the course of the season, even with Russell Wilson, he's had himself solid games, just not enough target opportunity for me to justify him over the rest. But again, he's going to be a solid play because they play against Cincinnati. Last time out against Cincinnati had like 3 catches for 74 and a touchdown. Again, not enough workload of opportunity from my perspective. Pollard or Charbonnet in the flex. I don't mind going either of the two. I have them ranked back to back. Currently, I have Charbonnet 1 spot ahead of Pollard. But if Pollard clears and has a full practice by Friday, I'd be more than comfortable rolling with him in that scenario, because I know he does need to surpass 80 yards to hit his monetary. I think it's 83 or 84 rushing yards in order for him to hit his incentive cap. Emily Doyle says, hi, Andrew. I won my 2nd championship ever. This is also the 2nd year in a row that I've joined a league and won the championship in the same year. Yeah, they must be pissed. Says many thanks to you for your guidance. Thank you very much, Emily. Congratulations. That's fantastic to hear. They must be very upset that you're like, they probably think it's beginner's luck, but you're just, at this point, you're probably just more knowledgeable than all of them in regards to fantasy. So congratulations. I love to see that. Trophy Steeler says, Bo Nix or Sam Darnold? I'd rather play Sam Darnold. Absolutely, without a doubt. All right, let's see here. We took care of that. Caden says, if Steelers win on Saturday, would you still play Dobbins on Sunday, since the Chargers will be locked into the 6th seed? There's a conversation to be had there. I don't know exactly how the Chargers want to go about it. I would probably lower the ranking of Dobbins in the event in which that was to take place, because yes, you are correct. If that was to take place, even if the Baltimore Ravens were to lose also on Saturday, it would still lock up the Chargers within that. Yes, I mean, at that point, an argument can be had to where you would lower him. But the only issue is, I don't know what the coaching staff of the Chargers want to do. So they may be in a situation where if that takes place and the Pittsburgh Steelers win, they say, all right, we're just going to play the starters in the first half. As to whether we will be privy to that information, I don't think we'll know before Sunday, and that's why we want to avoid playing in Week 18. But yeah, you bring up a great point there, Caden. Marco says, I need Achane to have a good game. Kind of doubtful without Tua playing. Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. In the absence of Tua, the receiving utilization is just not it's not an available option for him, unfortunately. Kanch says Bo Nix or Russell Wilson. As it currently stands, I have Russell Wilson ranked higher. Onich says Bills, Bucks, Ravens defense this week. As of right now, the highest defense that I have currently ranked between those three are the Ravens. Again, taking on the Cleveland Browns is as easy as it gets considering the quarterback play of DTR. In the event in which DTR cannot play, considering he's ailing from an injury, it would be Bailey Zappi. That is a turnover machine as well. So either way we go about it, the Ravens defense is firing up because they have to win this game in order to try to win, of course, the AFC North. Excuse me, I almost said South. Let's see here. Justin Wall says, I won my 7th championship. I appreciate all the content and hard work, Andrew. I always look forward to your videos every week. Makes fantasy football way more enjoyable. Happy New Year's. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Justin. That's fantastic to hear, brother. Nick AM says, I'm seeing Dobbins will sit after he gets his 58 yards of incentives. Is it 58? I thought it was significantly more. Let me see here. J.K. Dobbins, week 18 incentives. I thought it was more than that. I can check right now, though. Okay, let's see here. What I need to do first and foremost is that, and then Dobbins, it says, okay, yeah, it is 58 because he needs to get 900 total rushing yards to hit his 150K bonus. Got it. So yeah, it is 58. You're right. He could very easily accomplish that in the first half, and then sit. It's not out of the realm of possibility that that could occur. But again, that's under the assumption that the Steelers win on Saturday and they could stop Joe Burrow and the buzzsaw of that offense. But again, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll keep that monitored as we get closer. But yeah, that's a great point. Denny says, Tracy, Davis, or Harris for RB2 and Zaccheaus, solid pickup for the flex. I think he is. I mean, again, when you're taking on the Dallas Cowboys, as of thus far this season, from week 6 through 17, the Dallas Cowboys, as you guys can see, are giving up the most fantasy points per game on average to opposing wide receivers. It didn't matter who was playing quarterback for the Eagles last week, whether it was Kenny Pickett or post-Kenny Pickett rib injury, the third-string quarterback. It didn't matter. They were continuing to dice up that secondary on a consistent basis. Considering, Trayvon Diggs is out for the remainder of the year, it does keep them relatively exposed as a secondary. So I would venture to say it's a pretty good situation in regards to firing up our Washington Commanders receivers, as of course the Washington Commanders are trying to capture a victory in order to claim the number 6 seed within the NFC so that they can play against the LA Rams, which will be the number 3 seed. And that would be the more, I think from our perspective, it's probably teams wanting, specifically at least Washington and Green Bay, they want to win in order to try to play the Rams rather than have to go to the Eagles and play them, because the Eagles will also be resting this week. And be at a pretty full capacity. Now, as for your prior question there, Tracy, Ray Davis, and or Najee Harris, I don't know what the situation is regarding Jaylen Warren. I know that Jaylen Warren is dealing with a rib injury. Even if Jaylen Warren doesn't play, I like the idea of playing Najee Harris. As it currently stands in regards to yesterday's ranking live stream that we conducted here on the channel, Tracy and, again, Najee Harris, both relatively highly ranked. In regards to this week, let me see where I had them yesterday. Tracy's my number 15 and Najee's my number 13. So Najee would be the preferred in a half PPR. If we're talking about a full PPR, I could make the conversation of Tracy being a more valuable prospect. But if Jaylen Warren was theoretically to be out this upcoming Saturday, somehow, some way that was to take place, Najee would be the automatic regardless of scoring format there. Let's see here. We had a question from Magic Bell, who says, I won my dynasty for the 4th year in a row. Thanks for the help this season. Congratulations, Magic Bell. 4th season in a row. Are your league mates not getting tired of it? Like, dude, that's ridiculous. You're running the dynasty and just killing teams. Like, that's crazy. 4 years in a row is a ridiculous streak, brother. Raka says, will Puka Nacua play against the Seahawks? No. Again, you got to remember, Sean McVay, he's very adamant on the idea of not starting his primary guys in worthless games. So when I say worthless, it's regardless of whether they win or lose, it does not impact their future. They're going to be the NFC West champions, so they're going to have a home game regardless of whether they win or lose. So they're not going to start any of their primary guys. Do not expect to see Kyron, Stafford, Puka, or Kupp out there. Probably Higbee's not going to even play this weekend. So you should anticipate Puka Nacua not to play, and you should look for an alternative option going into this week. Jimmy says week 18, blah, blah, blah. Most of you wouldn't even win this week. Pros winning week 18. I don't know if you know what you're talking about, Jimmy. Okay. Constantino says, what's up, bro? If Chase Brown is out, where are we ranking Khalil approximately in a PPR? Under the assumption that Chase Brown was going to be out, I probably have Khalil Herbert as the top 20 running back this weekend. Yeah, so if I was going to approximate exactly where he would be, I'd probably put him behind Isaac Guerrero. I'd be relatively comfortable in that position. Jocelyn says Warren had a full practice today. All right, that's good to hear. Fantastic. I mean, again, these are the things that I'm waiting to hear. If we get a full Jaylen Warren at that point, then that's great. But I mean, as of yesterday's rankings, I had Jaylen Warren, I think, at running back 21. Both him and Najee should be pretty solid plays against that Cincinnati run stop defense that over the course of the season has struggled mightily as of late. Thank you. All right, is there anybody that I missed? Jonathan says, where do you have Michael Carter ranked? Michael Carter, as of yesterday's video, was ranked 26th. Again, James Conner just went to the injured reserve. They elevated Michael Carter from the practice squad to the immediate roster going forward, so we should be good to go there. Michael Carter, under the assumption that Trey Benson doesn't play this week, which is probably the highest likelihood of events taking place, will probably be in a situation in which, yeah, Michael Carter should be a fantastic, I mean, if you need a fill-in, a fantastic option. Otherwise, he's a low-end he's a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 with PPR upside, assuming he gets a couple targets here and there. But over the course of the last 2 weeks and a half, PPR has been like a 7 to 9 point running back, which again, we'll take if he can maybe play for the entirety of the game instead of like the short portions that he did. He could be a 10-plus point player, which we're hoping is going to be the case. Let's see here. It says, is the best kicker this week because I didn't see kicker rankings this week under the waiver. Yeah. So it depends on what you have available. Let's see. It says I currently have Jason Sanders. Keep Jason Sanders. You're good to go. But I also have Boswell on my bench and Reichard. As of right now, I think Jason Sanders, I think we talked about it yesterday. Yeah, I didn't include a kickers portion of the waiver wire episode. You are correct. My assumption is that, again, if you're switching kickers at this late in the season is probably not wise, but if I was going to go ahead and suggest a kicker between the two, I'm perfectly comfortable going with Jason Sanders, assuming the weather this weekend isn't going to be an issue. Let me just check it really quickly. Are they playing at home or are they away? I got to even check that really quickly. They're away. They're in New York. It says slight chance of snow showers, potential rain. Depending on how that weather is going to be as we get closer to this upcoming weekend, if the weather's a problem, at that point, there's also a chance of snow in Pittsburgh, but we'll have to wait and see. As of right now, Jason Sanders has been the best kicker since week 8 of the season. He's been the number one kicker since week 8. He has scored over 9 fantasy points in like 8 of the last 10 games. So I'd probably lean in his direction. But again, if the weather was going to be an issue, then we can just pivot to playing Boswell there, who's also been another great kicker in the overall conversation. All right, let's see here. We took care of that. Jocelyn says Benson's on the IR too. Great to know. Thank you very much. You see, this is what happens when it's week 18. Things are going to slide past me, but hopefully by the time we get to this upcoming Friday, I'll absorb it all. Again, it's a new year, and I hope you guys are doing well. Again, a reminder, tomorrow, quarterbacks, Friday, tight ends, Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon at noon PST, I'll be here on the channel answering questions. Until then, I know that many of you asked about potential underdog entries going into this weekend, so let's go ahead and let's travel over and let's go ahead and just check out a couple of them. So for this upcoming Saturday, if I was theoretically going to go ahead and put together something, because again, there are these 50% profit boosts that we could take advantage of. Hear me out. Okay, so theoretically speaking, the idea of Derrick Henry not scoring a touchdown against Cleveland is crazy. The fact that it's at a 0.81, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable going with that. The one play that I saw earlier, let me refresh this page. Maybe there's another play here in terms of receptions for Judy. The fact that he's coming off of 18 total targets and 12 catches, I'd like to potentially take his higher on reception count, but I don't think it's even available as of right now. Dude, look at this. I can't believe. Wait. Am I crazy? Where did it go? Where's first quarter receiving yards? First half receiving yards, first quarter receiving yards. They have first quarter receiving yards at a 0.5. So just get one receiving yard and it's a 0.87. I mean, am I crazy for that? The guy's coming off a week of 18 targets, 12 catches, and he can't get one receiving yard in the first quarter. I have a hard time thinking that's not possible. Like, that I'm willing to just take, like, in itself. Now, again, we could, I'm just going to put $10 on it. It's nothing crazy. We're just going to roll with it. But in regards to this weekend, I mean, again, anytime we're talking about Jamar Chase, he's eligible for pretty much every stat in this conversation. His numbers are really high, which again is not by accident. It's mainly based on volume of opportunity. Again, recently 9-6, 9-14, 6 catches. Everything is above that 6 marker. So again, where is it? Receptions. Yeah, everything's above the 6 marker. So everything is kind of risky to an extent. But anytime touchdowns for Jamar Chase always seem like a for sure bet. Or maybe even with T. Higgins, considering, again, the volume of touchdowns he's scored. In the last 6 games he's played, he has scored 1 touchdown in 5 of those last 6. Or I think it's actually in the last 7 games. 6 of the last 7 he scored a touchdown. That could also be a play that we could theoretically go with going into this weekend, depending on it. But like Russell Wilson, passing yards, I feel like that is 2 passing touchdowns. Let's see here. What is the deal with him? Like this, I think I'd be willing to go with. That's one of the bets that hit for us last week was Joe Burrow 2 passing touchdowns, Jared Goff 2 passing touchdowns, and then I think it was McBride receptions, which was the trio that we went with, and that one ended up hitting. So I know it's a relatively low percentage or, kind of return, so maybe that's not the greatest play of all based on that, but I feel like at least Russell Wilson 2 passing touchdowns is definitely within the realm of possibility here. Pairing that up with the potential of anything, let's see here. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I'd even be willing to go there because, ultimately, if you're going to kill the Cleveland Browns, you're probably going to score a pretty volume of points against them. Last time out against the Cleveland Browns, they got embarrassed and they lost. So maybe a quick little revenge game. I don't mind this as a potential entry as well going into this weekend. If you guys have any entry suggestions, again, you can let me know. But as of right now, a lot of the plays going into this weekend don't really have the full flux of kind of technical stats attached to them. Like you see, like Bryce Young only has passing yards. But like going into this weekend, we talked about this earlier. Mike Evans only needs 85 passing yards to get 1,000 receiving yards. So expect him to get over 80 receiving yards. That's kind of like an almost guarantee. When we talk about Bucky Irving taking on the New Orleans Saints, whatever his fantasy point total is, whenever it pops up here, if it's like at 15, I'm probably going higher on that. Over the course of this season, the guy's just been a machine as of late. So kind of hard to go away from this. In terms of rushing yard total, again, I think 70 is very much so achievable. My only concern is that they blow out the New Orleans Saints so badly that they pull him and Sean Tucker's running the ball in the second half. If Sean Tucker pops up on this list, that could be a conversation to be had. What else could we go with? In terms of Bijan Robinson scoring a touchdown, I think that's almost a guarantee, especially considering how they've utilized it as of late with Penix kind of leaning on the running game even more than they possibly can. I don't think that's a bad play this weekend. I don't really want to deal with that. Let's see here. Receptions. What are we doing? Like 4.5? I almost feel like at least 5.5 has got to be a guarantee. Like if Malik Neighbors doesn't get 6, if he doesn't get 6 catches this week, I'd be beside myself at this point. But as of right now, let's just leave this there. Actually, that's a 1.7. Okay, let me scroll down. Let me see what else we have. BTJ only has yardage right now. So does, you see, I'm just waiting to know these things. And the reason why these aren't up is because, again, we don't have a confirmation as to whether or not like Anthony Richardson is playing or not. So we'll have to wait on that. We'll see how that transpires. We talked about it earlier, right? Well, we'll wait on Dobbins. I feel like, let's see here. Does he have receptions yet? Nope, no receptions yet. But if we're talking about yardage alone, like I'll just toss this on top of that. We'll take this and we'll let it ride. Okay, anyway. A couple plays there. Let's see here. Let me go back into the live chat. Khalil Herbert, Ray Davis, or Abdullah. Under the assumption that Chase Brown was not to play, Khalil Herbert would be my preferred of the group because I know that he'll play the entirety of the game. Abdullah's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, so that he's a to be determined guy, and Ray Davis will probably be like a second half star in that given game. Let me go ahead and let me swap back to the full screen again for those of you who are just joining us over the course of today. Again, we're talking about wide receiver rankings at a top 36 capacity. Again, these rankings will change by the time we get to this upcoming Saturday, so be sure to swing on by if you have any questions by then. Scott says, thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate that. Brian says, tight ends, Bowers or Ertz in a full PPR? I would play Bowers there. Again, Bowers is truly just trying to extend his record as of right now. His current record of most receptions by a tight end in NFL history, most receptions by a rookie in NFL history. He's trying to extend those markers so that he could be in the record books forever, or at least for the next 10, 15 years. Which again, it's funny because every other year it seems like that record is being broken. A couple years ago it was Jalen Waddle, then it was Puka Nacua, then now here comes along Brock Bowers to break that record. So it should be interesting. But yeah, I would just stick with Bowers there. It's kind of hard not to go in his direction as of currently stands. Alrighty. So, anybody else have any questions in regards to this weekend? If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. It says, I want Neighbors to beat that. Yeah, I'll travel back and I'll go ahead and put in that entry. I don't mind that at all. I'm actually curious what else there is in terms of potential entries. I know Dobbins is sitting here. Again, his line's not adjustable yet, so we're waiting on that. So we'll see what the adjustability that kind of presents going into this weekend. Like, I feel like, oh, dude, I mean, come on. Give me the 5 receptions there for Devontae Adams. I have a hard time thinking brother's not going to get more than 5 receptions. That's just crazy. So if I go back up to Neighbors, theoretically speaking, like, I don't mind the idea of taking Neighbors. Where did it go? I have to refresh the page. That's the problem. So what happens is if you put in an entry and then you take it out, you have to refresh the page. Otherwise, the entry doesn't come back. That is what I've learned over my short period of looking at these. Yeah, so like, I'll just take the safe number. Like, I don't even care at this point. Just give me the safe number here. Actually, you know what? No. Let's not take the safe number. I mean, it's Malik Neighbors. Like, what are we talking about here? Okay. Now, as for the other plays that I wanted to look at, I will technically, if I go here, if I go down all the way, what is another play that I could have theoretically thrown into the mix here? What's DJ Moore receptions at? Because typically he's pretty solid. I mean, I don't mind throwing that in there. Just have a, what if I just have all 4.5s technically? It's a 1.88. Yeah, let's not do that. So let's just do this. We'll do one of these. Scrolling all the way down, I wanted to go ahead. Okay, so this technically is going to be the highest scoring game, maybe of the season, maybe the week for sure, considering these two offenses are ridiculously good. So, like, the idea of both of these offenses throwing 2 touchdowns, probably within the realm of possibility. I'd say that's a pretty good high likelihood of that taking place. Amon-Ra should dominate this defense. I'd even be willing to take it at 7.5 because they can't cover slot receivers, but I'll take them higher than 6.5 receptions pretty easily there. In regards to the usage that we've seen out of Laporta lately, I feel like this is a guarantee. Oh, I can't even take that. Never mind. Jefferson going against this team, if I can get him at 5.5 receptions, I'll happily do that. Like that I don't mind either, right there. Yeah, that I don't mind. We'll take that. Okay. Anyway, that's enough. I'm gonna start putting in too many entries at this point, and I'll be in shambles if none of them hit. Okay, continuing on. A couple more questions here, and then we'll go ahead and close out today's live stream. Let's see here. Mr. 1972 Dean says, if Pittsburgh wins/loses to Cincinnati, what does that mean for how hard the Chargers will play or field their starters? I overheard the conversation, but wasn't sure. Yeah, look, as of right now, under the assumption that the Pittsburgh Steelers win, that would make it so where they are the higher seed than the Chargers, which again would provide the Pittsburgh Steelers the opportunity of taking on the Texans, which again, everybody wants to do. That's why the Chargers and the Steelers will be playing. So in the event in which the Pittsburgh Steelers were to beat the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday, it would provide less of an incentive for Jim Harbaugh to send his guys out there to play the entirety of the game. They are going to play. As for how much they're going to play, that will be to be determined in the event in which Pittsburgh was to have won. I would assume that they play only the first half, which would lower the rankings of Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert, and of course, J.K. Dobbins. But we'll know that by Saturday's results. In the event in which Cincinnati was to continue their winning streak and they were to win this most recent game, going into this weekend, it would allow for the Chargers to play their starters for the entirety of the game and try to blow out the Las Vegas Raiders in order to claim the number 5 seed within the standings with a victory and a Pittsburgh loss and a Baltimore win in order to play the Texans, which of course everybody wants to do. So that's a to be determined factor in the event in which, again, like we talked about, if Pittsburgh wins, we're probably going to lower the ranking of those 3 primary guys who are the guys that we would theoretically start this week. Daniel Cap says Bowers is 8 receptions short of Zach Ertz's record for most catches in a season by a tight end. Is that serious? Hold on, wait. Most receptions, single season tight end, NFL. Let's see here. So Zach Ertz's record is 116 receptions. Brock Bowers is at 108 so far. Wow. Evan Ingram 114 from last season. Travis Kelce at 110. Jason Witten 110. Yeah, I mean, look, regardless of whether or not he beats the record, if he's able to put himself in the record books by surpassing Travis Kelce's, Jason Witten's records, those are some, at least Travis Kelce's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Jason Witten, I think there can be a conversation for that, absolutely, going forward. But man, that is, he definitely etched himself into the record books and put himself within the company of some incredible tight ends in NFL history for sure. Let's see here. Kanch says Okonkwo, Otten, Muth, or Gesicki. Of the available options, I'd lean in the direction of playing Muth this weekend, Kanch. J-Rat says, thank you for all the help. You're the only one out here putting out good Week 18 information. I mean, again, I would assume that because nobody else plays in week 18, that they're like, ah, yeah, I don't really want to do week 18 content. So I can understand it, but yeah, I mean, I'm here to help because I know that some of you are in unfortunate situations in which you have to play in week 18 and you have to deal with the uncertainty of this week. So I'm glad to help in any way. Of course, like I said all season long, we're making daily content for the entirety of the season, trying to live stream every day for the season. We've done so every day since September 5th. I'm not stopping until this upcoming Sunday, which we hopefully can get ourselves more championships under our belt. Astra says, last week I had the entire Bucks offense, Baker, Evans, McMillan, and Bucky. They got 100 points combined and won. Thanks for the help. Congratulations. Trojan 3659 says, hey, Andrew, any hope in Pickens having a good game? I mean, he should have a solid game. As to like an Omega upside performance, that'll be 100% determined on Russell Wilson and his connection and the opportunity share that he's exposed to. It says, I'm starting London and Amon-Ra, looking for a flex between Pickens, McMillan, Thielen. I see that you have the latter higher than Pickens. Yeah, look, as of right now, the fact that Thielen takes on the Atlanta Falcons secondary, that Falcons secondary has given up the second most points to opposing wide receivers over the course of the last 3 months of the season, weeks 6 through 17. That secondary struggled mightily. The way that, at least how Bryce Young has played lately, he continues to just look in the direction of Thielen on a consistent rate. Even though the target share isn't as great as we'd like it to be, he's at least getting himself the most valuable usage, which is down in the red zone. So in comparison to him and Pickens, I'll lean towards Thielen. If you wanted to play Pickens, I don't mind it because, again, I have them back-to-back ranked, Thielen, McMillan, Pickens. But yeah, I'd lean towards Thielen and McMillan ahead of him ever so slightly. Daniel Cap says, St. Brown won me my championship. I needed 13 points. He got 20. Yeah, we love to see that. Love to see that. Could it be a Harbaugh Bowl again? No, there's no way. Well, here's the thing. The Harbaugh Bowl would be potentially in like the second round of the NFL playoffs, potentially. But it's they're both on the same side of the bracket. They're both AFC teams. Combat Central says Michael Carter, Dowdle, or Garendo in a PPR. I need upside. Between those three options, I'd lean towards Dowdle 1, Garendo 2, and Michael Carter 3. Mr. 1972 Dean says, thanks for the response. Another great season. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. 26 Band says, Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, or Bowers? Play Bowers. Constantino says, you've helped me win 4 chips in week 18 since 2018. That's why you're the GOAT. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Glad to help in any way, Constantino, my brother. Charlene says, hey, I will watch a lot of the bowl games, 42 bowl games to go. Yeah, listen, I don't watch any bowl games. I did watch a little bit of that, of the beginning of the Ohio State versus Oregon game, and I was like, bro, this is getting out of hand. So I just stopped watching. Do you think Pickens will do better than Garrett Wilson? I do. I thought Wilson might do good since Ramsey will be on Adams. Last time out, Garrett Wilson had himself a solid game against the Miami Dolphins. That was a couple weeks ago. As to whether or not he's able to outproduce Pickens, I think Pickens, the touchdown upside that he will be available to inherit there with Aaron Rodgers playing the entirety of the game rather than last week getting pulled out, I think just makes Adams the more viable option. Adams last week was primarily because of Tyrod Taylor taking over the offense late in that game because they were down 30 plus points. That was the reason why Devontae Adams didn't find as much upside in comparison to what he'll most likely find this upcoming week. Boswell, Tucker, Lutz, Reichard, or Sanders. As of right now, between those available, I'd probably go with Reichard there. I think that's probably the best way that we go about it. It's either Reichard. The only issues that I theoretically have with Boswell and Sanders, even Tucker, Lutz, could be weather. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we get closer to this upcoming weekend's games. If the weather is going to be solid in all those kind of contests, I'd go with Sanders as my number one because, again, without Tua, the offense isn't as capable of scoring touchdowns. Therefore, it will lead to more field goals made and attempted. Otherwise, I'd probably go with Reichard there. Indoor stadium, pretty much the highest scoring implicated game of the week. Should be able to get himself at least 10 fantasy points minimum, if not more, if the offense continues to give him opportunities from 50 and beyond. To get us even more fantasy upside in that conversation. All right, guys, I think that's what we're going to call it. I appreciate y'all coming through. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. PST once again with quarterback rankings at a top 16 capacity, hopefully able to get that all settled. I'll answer more questions tomorrow as we get closer to this upcoming weekend. I appreciate y'all. I hope you guys have a great, happy new year. Again, just because the date changed doesn't mean that, you have to completely flip your life around, but any day that you wake up and you feel motivated to do something to change your life, go for it. Don't let the date be the driving factor for that, Be self-motivated enough to just get after it. I do appreciate y'all. Zach with the final question says, I know that the Rams are playing their backups this week, but does that necessarily mean JSN will do better than Addison? I'm struggling to choose between the two. Does it necessarily mean that he'll do better? I think that even if so let's just put it this way. Even if the Rams were starting their full starting defense offense, I'd still expect JSN to outproduce. Yeah, I'd still expect JSN to outproduce Jordan Addison. The volume of opportunity that JSN will be equipped with this weekend, specifically because not only is Geno Smith going for his $5 million of incentives, but last time out against his defense, JSN went for a ridiculous 180 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, a monster 38-point performance. I'd assume that much of that should be expected within the upcoming performance against this defense because, again, they have found, at least this offensive coordinator and this offense, they have found a pretty good opportunity in terms of being able to pick them apart in certain circumstances. So I would expect both DK Metcalf and JSN to play relatively well this weekend. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Have a good one. I'm cueing the music. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace. Okay, there were a couple questions here that I saw came in late, but it's all good. Gio, if you're still there, Gio, what's up? It says PPR, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. It says Amon-Ra St. Brown, Adam Thielen, George Pickens, Jalen McMillan, Ray Davis, Corum, or Amir Abdullah. Okay, so if we were going to pick potentially of those available, Amon-Ra, I mean, look, as of right now in a full PPR, I have a hard time not playing 3 receivers there. So if you were going to play any of these players, it has to be Amon-Ra, Thielen, Pickens, McMillan. I would leave those 3 running backs to the bench. I'd play all 3 of those, or specifically, if I was going to lean in the direction of 3 receivers, I don't mind going Amon-Ra, Thielen, McMillan. If you wanted to play Pickens over any of those 3, go for it. But yeah, those are the 3 that you should go with. If you can still hear me, of course. Thank you. All right, guys. See ya. Peace.